All right, may as well make a start. So, introduction to industrial barcode reading. We'll look at a bit of background to barcodes, which is good to understand why they're reading or not reading, or what you need to do to get a good, reliable read. And then we'll look at the DataMan software, the setup software it's called, and see how to set up a couple of cameras and whatever else. So just get into it quickly. There's a few slides. I like to make them fairly quick. COGNEX, #1 in machine vision, been doing vision for 37 years, and got into barcode readings. Their algorithms are very strong for decoding tricky codes and whatever else. So if it's a dot peen, it's a well-printed code, whatever it is, COGNEX can do it. So I should say welcome to everyone as well. I try to make the training interesting and fun, and I might try a bit of humour, but if some of you have been to my courses before, you know that I'm not very funny. So I apologise for that straight up. COGNEX invest a lot into R&D. New cameras coming out, new barcode readers coming out every year. They're adjusting the algorithms, making them better as we go. So lots of different customers for COGNEX all around the world, international company. You might see your name there. So with the barcode readers, where are they used? They're used in retail distribution, so automated sorting, pallet scanning, pick and pack sorting, print and apply, warehousing, used in e-commerce. There again, sorting, pick, pack, warehousing, outbound sorting, and logistics and transportation. So logistics, as we've all found over the last couple of months, logistics is becoming huge, with people buying a lot more online due to the COVID. So that's where a lot of barcode readers are being used nowadays. COGNEX have just a new guy has just started in Australia who's in their logistics area, Sven. So we've got some more technical support. He's come out from Europe about 7 years, I think, with COGNEX over there. So we've got some extra backup and support, which is excellent for the more challenging applications that may be around. Other sort of systems, airport baggage. Hopefully we get to fly soon. There's a few of these systems around, starting to come into Australia. Last time I was traveling. Food and bev, packaging inspection, making sure the right barcode's in there, the right label, the right labels on the right product. So product quality control. So we can use cameras as well for that. So what is a barcode? Let's get into it. Hopefully everyone has turned up that will be coming. A barcode is a machine readable pattern applied to a product, packages or parts. Barcodes contain useful information and marketing purposes as well for tracking products throughout their life cycle. Barcodes are read by using a special reader, a scanner with lights and lenses that decodes the data. The information is transferred to a database where it can be logged. So you've probably seen a lot of these newer 2D codes becoming more popular. They're using them in marketing nowadays. Scan this on a product, you get straight off to the data sheet of the product. The linear barcodes, been around for a long time, more traditional type barcodes, postal codes, stacked linear codes. So with these image-based barcode readers, which is what COGNEX only do, they can read 1D or these are what we call 2D codes. So with any barcode, it's made up of particular, grid with patterns and whatever else, and that makes up the code. So different industries use different codes. If you're not aware of that, so code 128, typical usage is in logistics. The EAN 13 code, or the UPC, is your retail and supermarkets that will be on your bottles of Coke or whatever. Code 39, military or automotive. So, and there's also, I think we've got someone from the pharmaceutical industry, there's a pharma code as well. So different codes are being developed for different industries, but they all have a particular pattern. And part of that pattern is a quiet zone around the outside, and guard patterns and check digits as well. With the 2D code, this is the data matrix code. You have modules or cells. There is an L finder, so it can find, and there's a clock pattern around the outside. And also part of the code is a quiet zone. So if you are making barcodes to particular standards, you need all of these quiet zones and whatever else. So it's so that when your code goes out into the marketplace, it can be read properly. So with our barcode readers, which are image-based readers, we take an image of a barcode, and the smallest piece of that image is a pixel. So in digital image, a pixel is a single imaging element of multi-component imaging sensor. A module is in the simplest definition, is a module is the smallest bar in a barcode. So for when we're looking at applications, we always say to people, what's your thinnest bar? Because we need a certain number of pixels to actually read that barcode correctly. And it's same with the 2D barcode module. We need a certain number of pixels so that the algorithm will work correctly. So pixels per modules equate to how many pixels can be laid across each barcode module. So as a bit of a guideline, there is a minimum acceptable threshold for these algorithms to work. For a 1D code, they say you need 1.2 pixels so that you can actually, the algorithm can see an edge, can see a dark line, and then so on. For the 2D codes, they say 2.4 pixels per data module. And if it's a DPM code, DPM stands for direct part mark. So you might be dot peening or laser etching onto metal or plastic, whatever. It's a bit more difficult to read. So the algorithms need a bit more data. I generally, as a rule of thumb, when I'm looking at applications, I try for 2.5 pixels as a minimum. The COGNEX algorithms, which they've refined over the last X years, they actually work down to 0.7 of a pixel. It's because, you will say, how's that possible? It's because they do sub-pixel calculations to look at the information. They look at the rate of change and of the barcodes. But I try to get, for applications, about 2.5 pixels. That way, if the product's coming down skewed on an angle, you're going to get a good, reliable read. So we have different options as also need to be considered for this, and that is you might have a product coming down a conveyor which be quite high or quite low, so the working distance will vary. So with some of these systems, we can have liquid lenses which can change very quickly. So it doesn't matter whether your product, your barcode that you're reading is quite close to the sensor or further away from the sensor. It will adjust and read the code accordingly. So we have fixed lenses, but also liquid lenses, and very handy for a lot of our applications. Generally, you find there are variations in industry. So also that may need to be considered in some of these applications is the lighting technique. Not so much when we're doing standard reading of UPC codes, because they're well printed, they're good quality codes, there's good contrast. That's the other thing. With codes, the contrast of the black lines to the white background needs to be good. We'll talk more about that later. But if you are etching a barcode on metal, or this image here, you can see dot peen in the middle on the left, different lighting can highlight those lumps and bumps and give us a bigger contrast. So the better the contrast, the better the read will be. So in some applications I've looked at over the years, I've needed to employ special lights or special filters, polarizing filters, to get rid of unwanted reflections. This marketing came up with a label that had dimples in it, so convex dimples. And so when the product sits on the shelf, doesn't matter where it is, it's going to reflect light and stand out. But we had to get better, different sort of lighting to actually read the code. So why image-based readers? Okay, that's because we get a lot of variation in our products. You know, we do not live in a perfect world. Everything isn't always going to come down our conveyor straight and whatever else. So there could be noise. So noise in the background depends on what the code is printed on. We can get specular reflections. So, you know, we don't need to see, and this is the beauty of using an image-based reader, we can still reconstruct the code. If we were the older technology, the laser-based readers, a bit more difficult. Things like interferences like specular reflection would interfere. Perspective. So the code can be on an angle and we can still read the code. The cameras can handle, I think it's, last time I looked, which was a few years ago, 50 degrees angle variation, you know, and I have looked at a lot of applications over the years where people had a reader in situ and they were getting low read rates because the box would just come down on a slight angle and it couldn't read. The quiet zone might be missing. So I mentioned that needs the quiet zone. COGNEX have developed these algorithms over the years so that doesn't matter, even if the quiet zone is missing for whatever reason, could be interference on the box, it'll still decode the algorithm, because at the end of the day, what we want is the highest decode rate as possible. Contrast is something else that we consider, or you need to consider for your application. If the contrast is low, the algorithm will still work. I've looked at applications nowadays, the marketing people, my favorite, they keep coming up with great ideas. They'll put a barcode on maybe a red background or a yellow background or a blue background. The contrast isn't great, but we can still read the code, which is good. Damage codes, which is probably more often than not that what might occur in a factory or a parcel that's been around the world. The code gets damaged. Doesn't matter with the image-based readers, it can still reconstruct. Okay, how to select a barcode reader. What's your application? So I thought I'd share this with you because it's good to understand, okay, you know, what you're doing and what has to, you know, the process to go through to get a good, reliable read. We have lots of different scanners. Talk about the variations in a minute. But okay, we always look at, you know, what's your application? Is it on metal? Is it a well-printed code? Is it printed onto a product, a DPM? What's the code type? What is the code we're trying to decode? Is it 1D or is it a 2D code? What's the speed of the part? So if it's traveling down a conveyor, more often than not, we may need to look at our decode time. We may need to look at the field of view. What is the size of the part? So is it a box? How big's the label? Where will that label appear? So a lot of people put labels on boxes, no worries. But the operator's putting that label on a box. Where will they put it? Will it vary? Do we need a larger code? So if the field of view is quite large and we've got, you know, a thin bar, we need to go to a higher resolution unit. So there are, you know, a few things, and we generally say to people, send us your code, we'll check it out, make sure it's got the correct lighting and everything else associated with that. So lots of different things to consider, and also the right number of pixels to be able to decode the code. So we have a variety of different units and cameras. We have lower cost, which are lower speed units. Generally with the comms, there are RS-232 USB type devices. Probably because in the past, the barcode readers were all RS-232. But nowadays, we also offer the Ethernet-based communication readers, which on the comms, you have Ethernet IP to talk to your Rockwell. You have Profinet, which is Profibus over Ethernet, to talk to Siemens PLCs. They have MC protocol to talk to Mitsubishi. So variety of different units. So nowadays people are mostly going for the Ethernet-based devices because they can wire them around a whole plant, get all the data back via Ethernet into a PLC and do their tracking. We have our handheld readers, which are part of the systems which can read codes. These handheld readers have the same comms. You can have Ethernet, serial, USB. Now, even with the, you can do scripts in these as well. So you can have, if you've got a label that you want to get your operator, this is the label that we're doing. You can have this send information to the fixed scanner, which is going to then feed back and say, this is your match string of what you're looking at. Also, the other newer area is these mobile barcode readers, which you can pop a Samsung, Apple phone inside of a mobile reader unit, and you have all the COGNEX algorithms, and there's a whole range of apps. So there's all, this is starting to be another new area for, you got your, with your mobile phone, you've got all your comms, your Wi-Fi, your wireless, get the data back, recording, whatever it is. So another big area that's starting to take off. And as I mentioned, we have Sven now here in Australia. He's an expert on that as well. So for stocking, using products, yes, be very exciting in that area. I'll keep moving. Here's a bit of a video. How long's this one? I won't play it all, but this just shows you, hopefully you've got the bandwidth to see, this guy's presenting a label. Just shows you how rugged and robust, behind plastic, water droplets, the algorithms can be. You know, quite severe angles. Anyway, there's a lot to get through. If you want these videos. We can set you up with some links afterwards to have a bit more of a look. But yeah, it's just showing you how the whole thing with the COGNEX algorithms are designed to read poor codes. They've also got some software that help you analyze no reads, whatever else, for corrective action, so you can then maybe adjust your system. So some of you may have seen some of these, you know, 5-sided, so there's quite a few barcode readers here for high-speed reading. All about throughput, getting those goods in and out the door. Anyway, I'll keep moving. So what separates COGNEX? As I mentioned, quite advanced algorithms. COGNEX give everything a name. Max, 2D max, 1D max. You know, the algorithms are so tweaked, even if the clock pattern, like you can see here on the right, is missing. So the L shape in the clock pattern, it'll still read. It's designed to read those poor codes. Power grid and hotbars, and faster decoding as well. So they've got some quite good things. I'll keep moving. So 99.9% read rates for optimal throughput and traceability. So it's, you know, if you're making 10,000 cans an hour and, you know, you want to have your highest read rate as possible. In the newer models, the 370s and the 470s, they've brought in the HDR and HDR Plus, which gives more range to the units, so greater depth of field, which means different products at different height, you get more of a focusable area, and faster decoding in these as well because of the better image. And the HDR is less reflective as well. So you get less reflections off your product. They've also developed a new liquid lens just to keep you up to date. So it'll focus 10 times faster than the current lens. So products at different heights, dung, dung, dung. There is a demo I've seen where they've just throw a unit past a box or a package past a scanner and it'll read it in flight, which is pretty impressive. There's the 370s, which it's got 3 processors on board, this one. Lots of light and whatever else, but you know, it's not for everyone. That's why we look and help you guys select the right sensor for the right application. The 470's got 7 processors, multi-core processing to process fast, because it's, you know, all about speed. If you need larger fields of view, they COGNEX also developed the expand technology that'll give you 50% more coverage. Because as I mentioned before, you need so many pixels for the thinnest bar to read correctly. So with these mirrors inside of here, it'll give you more region and still read. I'm not going to go through the barcode reader app, but COGNEX have developed a barcode reader quick setup app on your phone. You can download it and have a bit of a play. One of these sessions we did a quick demo on it, but you know, you can connect to all your devices if they're on a Wi-Fi network and see what they're doing. You can train codes, tune, optimize your brightness, or even trigger the device. So maybe a handy tool for setting up. So lots of different readers in here. They also have verifiers. Some people who print barcodes onto boxes directly, they want to grade that code because when it gets sent to Coles, it has to be a B or an A grade to meet the ISO standards. This is where these verifiers can actually grade your code to make sure that it's up to standard. And if you provide product to Coles and Woolies, they apparently give pretty hefty fines out if they can't read your codes, because it's wastes them time, whether it's on the box or the product. Yeah, time is money. So we also have an online verifier as well. So they come in different shapes and sizes. Lots of different products, and that's where we're here to help you with. So Webscan, barcode verifiers, COGNEX bought them a few years ago. Another range where you can print your codes and check them out. And it becomes, I know some companies who make it part of their, every hour they get one of their codes, they test it, they record it. That way they can prove to Coles and Woolies that they are checking and making sure that their prints are up to standard, ISO or GS1. Just thought I'd include this one because I've got a few people from the logistics here. COGNEX have a new little handheld, not a handheld unit, a new unit. It's a 3D camera, the 3D A1000. It will do dimensioning of boxes and whatever else. So as boxes are running past, it will give you a dimension. I can't quite remember whether it's down to 5 mil or something like that, or 1 millimeter, quite accurate. So as the product's moving along the conveyor, it's factory calibrated. It says here 15 minutes plug and play and set up. If you want to see one, we've got a demo module floating around somewhere. So sizing is volumetric billing. Oh, here's a bit of a demo. Hopefully you can see these videos. That's why I ask people to turn their videos off, because you can see a live video streaming via the Zoom. So that data shipped out. Anyway, not thank you yet. Well, half an hour on that. Now I'd like to go to the DataMan software. What I'm going to do is grab my camera and show you, hopefully. There's my laptop. Got a bit of a setup here. I've got a DataMan 60, which is one of the low-end older models, set up on the bottom. I have a DataMan 260, which has the Ethernet comms coming out. So there's two cables coming out of the back of here. The green is the Ethernet. The black is the Power I/O. So for triggering the device and sending out pass fail or whatever else. So over here, I've just got some different samples we'll look at. I've tried to keep it COVID friendly with some Sanitol and some Glen 20. I've also got a ship a bit further down here. Excuse the mess. I'm quite busy at the moment setting up a 8-camera system, but I'll just pop this here so you can actually see the device that we're looking at. So if everyone mutes, it should automatically go to my screen so you can see what we got, the Glen 20 can in the corner. I just thought that would give you a bit more of an idea of what I'm looking at. So the DataMan software, it's free software, and you connect up your units. So I've got one connected, let's grab it again, into my computer with Ethernet, and I've got another one on USB, which is going to the one of the other units. When you open up the DataMan setup tool, so I want to spend about 30 minutes here just running you over the software. Quite easy and intuitive software to work with. It will open up in the home page where you can connect. So to connect to any cameras, barcode readers, it's a matter of hitting the refresh button, and they need to be within your network. If it's so you can see here, this 260 is on 10.10.10.102. That's the IP address, which is similar to my computer. The DataMan 60 is connected on COM3 port. This is a USB serial. You can also create virtual units, so you can have a bit of a play with the software as well. But once you're connected to a unit, it's just a matter of then just double clicking on a unit. So if you've got 10, whatever it is, units there, so many of them, you can see all of those units. So I reset this. This is the DataMan 260. I reset it so that you can sort of see setting up from scratch. Please notice this is the DataMan setup tool. Across the top, home, which is where the units are. Actions is where we perform our actions. Settings, where you can adjust other bits and pieces. We have then system, which is backing up the system, saving a configuration, resetting the unit. So you can also reset, which I'll show you a bit later. View is where you can turn on different windows, because it can get quite busy with all these different windows that you've got going on here. Over on the right hand side is Q&A. If I click on that, it opens up, pushes the screen across. That's why you may want to close down different windows. But it opens up questions and answers, which I call it active help. It's really good. So whatever you clicked on, we're on optimize image, it gives you everything you need to know or understand. So I don't go through PowerPoints on this. Everything comes with the software that you need. And if you want to turn it off, there you go. Next to that is help. So help, I love help because I'm always looking for manuals. I'm never find a manual, but here they've got going back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, 150s, the 260, good mid-range unit, up to the new 370s, 470s for the more difficult high-speed applications. It's even got all the information on the MX, which is the mobile terminal units. And the 8000 series is the handheld units. So if I were to go into DataMan 260, I can click on reference manual, for instance. It opens up automatically in my Adobe. Here's all the information about the barcode reader. You can notice these 260s here. They can also be right-angled. See the line here? You can turn them around, make them right-angled so that it takes up less room. Very versatile, handy unit. You want to have a look at all the different options that there are. There's the right angle. Different lens options, 6.2, 16 mil, UV kit. The UV, a lot of people print codes sometimes nowadays in UV, pharmaceuticals. So it runs through, gives you everything, but what I like is I can go to the cables. Oh no, further down here. Where is it? Setting up, connecting. So under connecting, high-speed output wiring or the connection cable. It's always the first thing I look at and check, black. This is the black cable. It's 12 pin. Black is common in, blue's ground, red, where's positive? Positive is brown. So good to check. Make sure you got the right connections, because you don't want to go blowing things up. But I have wired incorrectly and the camera survived. I've only blown up a light source. It was 12 volts. I put 24 on it. It was really bright for about 2 seconds, and then I love that smell of burnt components. Anyway, back to the software. So help, very good and handy because it's got all the data sheets, all the information for all of the readers. Now, this DataMan software, it does handhelds, the MX, it does the whole lot. So it's good to have that one-stop shop. So I've set up a barcode reader. First thing I like to do is go live to make sure it's pointing at what it should be pointing at. Is the barcode in the field of view? Not quite, so just move it a bit. So now it's in the field of view. It's pointing in the right direction. Next, very basic and easy to set up. We have a tune button, and the units also come with a tune button on top of them, but I'll press the tune and you can see it goes through a whole system, looks at different exposure, looks at the built-in lights. So if your camera's got built-in lights, it'll go through. You can see these little circles on there. And goes through a tuning process to then give you an optimal setup for your codes. Now, this is probably about 200 mil away, this one, because it's a 16 millimeter lens on that. Once you've set it up, so this code has been trained. It's been trained to read. It's identified it as a UPC, EAN. It's looking for a code around 3.3 pixels per module. So when you actually train in a code, it makes, and it's only going to look for that code, it makes it, what's the word, a lot more reliable in reading, because it's looking for just that code. So if another code came in, you can help to get rid of unwanted codes. But sometimes there's applications where you may want to read multiple codes. So this is where you go through the next step, code details. So you can see they're all sort of grayed out. If I click the untrained code, these will come live, and you can then, if you want to read 128, 93, 39, whatever it is, you can select all of these codes, and it doesn't matter when it comes down the line, it'll read them. So whether you want to train a code, that will help to give you more reliable reading and faster decoding, or you can read multiple codes. I'll just go back to the optimize image step. If I click test, we can then test our code, and I'll come over here and rotate the code. So code on a bottle. It doesn't have to see all the code. If you're looking at that live, you can, when you look at my live screen, you can, barely see that code. It's on quite an acute angle, but it will still read. It's reading this, telling us the code, so many pixels per module. And that's where, a lot of people want to read barcodes to make sure they're okay, or you got the right product that's coming down the line. If you get closer, it's not in the field of view, it won't read. I can go further away. As long as it's in the field of view, it will read. So that's, the algorithms are quite flexible. They're designed to read the poor codes. If I were to put a pen across, needs to be able to see at least a partial part of the code. So that's just showing you codes. Let's have a bit more of a look. I've got two codes two cameras set up here. I've also got, so if you've got multiple cameras, they'll be tabbed across the top. I'll just click over to the DataMan 60. And there again, let's go live. Needs a certain number of pixels. I can go through a tuning process on this as well. Yeah. Tuning just gives you the optimal setup. There are lots of different things you can play around with and do it manually, but I think they do it pretty well. This camera's only got a couple of lights, so there's less things that I can adjust and or change for this application. So I just thought I'd show you the tabs with the different units. I'll go back to this unit. I've also got a, in the background, got a built-in liquid lens. There's the code back on the chair there. It's probably about 1200, 1300 millimeters away. So when you train, you must train on a barcode so that it can do its thing. Let's hit the tune button again. Goes through its process. See it flashing away. It tries out different lights. This one's got two different banks here. So it's reading that code, and I think it's 1.14 pixels per module. So you can see, as I mentioned, the algorithms work down quite low. But my preference, try and have more, 2.5 or around there. It's not always possible to get that because you might have a large field of view, but just in case, the product's skewed coming down, it gives you a better read. So it's a matter of going through your application steps for setting up all of these. So we'll go through, that's setting up a barcode, but what else do we want to do? You may want to read multiple codes coming down, so that's where, okay, you untrain your code. Now, I want to read 2D as well as these other codes. Maybe I want to read QR as well, because you've got a variety of codes. So you've set up. You'll notice on all these tabs, there's a basic and an advanced. The advanced just gives you more of a tab style with other options. So for all of these, there are other options that you can add into. Just want to try and keep it simple today. If you want to know more about what these things do, you can read, the help, the active help. It's fantastic. All your information is here. Also, you can define an application. Is it in motion? Is it indexed stationary? Is it going to be presented by hand? So most applications are in motion, so you can set things up accordingly. So that's your codes. A lot of people ask me down the bottom, hopefully you can see that, how many numbers of codes do you want to read? So you may read 2, 10, I think the maximum is 99 codes you can decode in one image. Go down to application details. So there again, our application. What's going on? What's our trigger source? Generally, more often than not, it's an external source. It could be a sensor, photoelectric sensor that's across. So external, but you can also presentation, might just be flashing all the time. I've been to places where people, the operator just scans the product, it reads and it goes on. We have burst mode that when you give it a trigger, it will do 10 quick bursts to look for a code. Or alternatively, with burst external, we have a trigger assistant that if you define it's external, you could have it run continuously. So when your trigger sensor is on, it will just trigger, 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 trigger until it reads a code. Or it may just do one single from an external photo sensor, or you could burst to do 10 inspections or 20. And the good thing is with these burst modes, you can run through a series of setups, so you can adjust your focal point. Your focal point can, move, 400 mil. So it could be 200 mil from the scanner out to 600 mil. All depends on how close or far. So this is, where we can set up, or you can, manually adjust your exposure and whatever else, make it a manual exposure. So the exposure time of this one in microseconds is 1,624 microseconds, so 1.6 milliseconds. You can adjust your gain factor as well. So if your gain is lower, your image is not as grainy. Format data. So under formatting data, when you read data, what do you want to send out? So you can format the string that you're sending out to your PLC or via RS-232. So you can do Perl style or scripting. So you can have a script that's sent out. I mentioned before, we have handheld scanners that can send directly to our fixed scanners what match string it needs to look for. Input-output section, people generally like to set up. So the actual physical trigger buttons you can set up on the units to do certain things. The tune button, you can disable it so the operators won't accidentally tune a system. The inputs is where we would set things up. So generally the trigger on, trigger off, always got to be set up, because these units, if you're doing an external trigger, you need to wire that in. If you need to know which wire it is, go to the manual from the help section. So you also may have a train match string on another input. So it'll then teach itself. Outputs. This unit has 4 outputs, quite handy. The 60 that I've also got here only has 2 outputs. But you may want to strobe an external light. Generally people send out, yes, it's a good read. You might send out no read on another one. I didn't read it. Validation failure means it didn't match the string. So it read, but it didn't match the string. Or create other user events to work with scripts, or you've got a trigger overrun, you're getting too fast on your triggers. And then you can also set up the pulse width for those to make sure that your PLC can handle it if it's got a longer scan time. Under advanced, you can open up. It's just another way of, sometimes people prefer this sort of chart type programming. Use whatever you feel comfortable with. That's the good thing about this software. There's 2 or 3 ways of doing the same thing. I like the application steps because it sort of guides you and tells you what you can do at any particular stage. Continuing on, communications. If it's serial, you can set up your speed. Nowadays, most people, as I mentioned, are using Ethernet comms. What comms do you want to do? The industrial protocols that come with Ethernet IP, Profinet, SLMP, which is Mitsubishi. You've got Modbus, TCP, which is your Telemechanique, Schneider. You can also enable a net. So this is where you set up your IP address, subnet mask for communications. Advanced, there again, you get some other features you can adjust and change, but just gives you in a, that chart type programming. Last but not least, there's a step, save settings. Do you want to save to the reader? Yes, you do. It's a trap I've done many times. I've gone through and set up cameras, and if that saves you something by having that there, it's so good because you've got to save it to the flash memory of the unit. If you've got a unit, so you can go through and set up all these things here by using the application steps. You've also got here under options another way of setting and training your codes and tuning and whatever else. It's just, they just give it to you in different formats. This is the older style of programming. With this software, whatever you think, what do I do next? I'm not sure. Oh, Q&A. What's this application type mean? Just nice, simple little directions of how to do at each step what each function does. Under system, I mentioned you can save the configuration. You can save it to your computer. You can save it to the unit. You can then copy it to multiple units. You know, do one, set it up, make sure it'll do what it needs to do. Also, if your units, you know, you can reset the unit. It'll set it back to factory defaults. So we look at this again. It's all fuzzy. It's back to factory defaults. Hit the tune button. I'm forever resetting things back to factory defaults because people grab units off the shelf here and play around with it and set it up for their particular application, but I want it to work for my particular application. So I'm always going through and resetting, update the firmware when they bring out new firmware, things like that. So very user-friendly. The best way is just get in and have a play. You're not going to hurt it. You're not going to hurt the barcode scanners. The only way you do that is with an axe. Software's free. You can download it. If you want to have a bit of a play, you can't really use images, but you can create under repair and support. So under the maintenance, it's where you can change your IP settings. So you click on a unit, you can change the IP settings to match your particular network. You can give your device a name. It's number 1, 2, 3, 4, west side, whatever. But you can also add a virtual device. So I'll just show you quickly. So that way you can create a device with factory defaults. You can have a bit of a play with the software and see what functionality it does have. So DataMan 470. What firmware version? Go with the latest 6.1.6. Device model. So there you will notice there are L's, QLs, Q's and X's. So an L means it'll only read a linear code, a 1D code. You also have QL, which is quick. It's a fast reading 1D code. You have QLM. It's a multi-function reader. So you can have 10 readers. And if any of those 10 readers are all connected together, it's like a master-slave type system. Anyone reads, bang, it'll then send out just the one code for you. And then you have the X version, which has the more aggressive readers and lighting built in to read those direct part marks that are very difficult. So let's go with a 474X finish. It's set up that virtual code, double click. So it goes through the whole system. It does tell you you've connected to a virtual device. Changing device parameters, issuing operators requires an active connection. But at least it gives you the chance to go through and have a look. You've got lots of different lighting here. And when you do the tune, it can turn on different lights and whatever else. Anyway, that's a quick introduction to the setup software. What I will do now is open it up. If you want to ask questions, I'll stop my share and see if anyone has popped. Yes, there has been some questions on the chat. Another question, do all of the barcode scanners come with the UV reading capabilities built in? Or is there a specific camera for this application? So not all of these barcode readers come. You probably saw there was a specific model for doing UV. It would have built-in UV lights and possibly a blue filter. Whenever I've done a application with UV, UV pops blue. So it's good to put a filter on there. So it helps to mitigate the background information. I've done a few applications in the food environment. They used to print a black code on a microwave bowl for soups and things. Then they changed to clear bowls. You've got to love marketing people so you can see the product, but that black code might have pumpkin soup, chicken soup behind it. Couldn't see it very well. So they changed to a UV ink. We had UV lights over the unit. We had a blue filter just to give better contrast. We could then decode the barcode. So I've done that with barcodes and with OCR as well. So that was with a camera, and we have done barcodes as well. It's just a matter of getting the right lighting, UV lights, to make it pop. The model of the camera we did OCR was an old 7200 model. So you can do it with 7600, 78s. You could do, I've done it with barcode readers. It's a matter of turning off the built-in red lights or going to the UV light. If it was a UV model for barcode reading, I can check on that. I'll send you some information afterwards, Hal, on the barcode readers. With the liquid lens, does it just automatically focus each image? The liquid lens, depending on how you got it set up, but if you're in burst mode, it'll go through different settings. And so you would burst 10 consecutives and it'll go through from 100 to whatever. There is a video showing people throwing things or moving product in and out very quick. And that's where the new liquid lens, very, very fast, can handle the different height products. And I think I did see videos from like 2.2 meters all the way back. And it all depends on which lens you use as well. As long as you can still read and you've got enough pixels, back to that as well, you'll be able to read it. So it's depending on what you set up for automatically focusing or not. And thank you from Hal. Any more questions? I know some people need to get off to work, but thank you very much for attending today. Hopefully you've got a lot out of this little system. If you've got any ideas that you want me to do or show you in the future, please let me know. Your feedback is much appreciated. So if nothing else, sorry for not enough jokes. I know I was trying to get through as much as possible. But anyway, I'll sign off for now. So thank you very much and speak to you all later.